Well, good morning, everyone. We are back wrapping up week 11. We just finished up the Monday night game last night. It was a boring game between the Giants as well as the Bucks. As usual, I'm here with Jed and Jimmy. Good morning to you all.
Good morning,
Morning.
guys.
Yeah. Did any of you guys get a chance to watch the game, especially the Payne and Eli cast?
Yeah, I got to listen to Kevin Hart. He was pretty good. His back and forth with Eli was pretty good. But I was switching back and forth. It's hard. It's to me, I realize I love hearing that banter, but then I'm not watching the game. And so I was like flipping back.
Because you're focused on the banter.
Yeah. I will say, I don't know what you guys think there's this commentator Booger McFarlane on the ABC ESPN. He is my least favorite commentator. So if he ever comes on, I switch off because I think his commentary is so like non-helpful. He basically just says the obvious, like what's right in front of him, and there's like nothing he adds.
Yeah. He used to be the Monday Night Football guy, right?
Yes. I hated it.
And I think that's why they dumped him after a couple of years because they realized he doesn't add much value.
Yeah, exactly.
The only good thing is that he does the post-game NFL Live or with Chris Berman on ESPN Plus. He does a pretty good job there.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't know if you guys saw this. Did you know that the last time Tom Brady lost more than 2 games in a row, the team that defeated him was Brian Greasy, who was commentating on Monday Night Football yesterday. So they were pulling up all these old highlights of Brian Greasy playing in that game, and they were like, that was so long ago. And now I'm old and I got gray hair, and look at this guy. He's still out there playing around and winning these football games.
Yeah. Speaking of the Manning cast, my favorite part of, did you catch this one where Kevin Hart, they were ripping on Kevin Hart and say, hey, is there any old footage of when you were playing high school? He says, yeah, here's the website you need to go to. And he says, go to www.thailand.7433890. And it just goes on this long website. You got it? He says, go look there. And then they also had Condoleezza Rice on there. She was pretty good too.
Oh, I didn't see her on there. I think I tuned off by then.
Yeah, I miss Condoleezza Rice, but to me the favorite one was when they said Kevin Hart played in a pickup game with Peyton Manning, and then they said, yeah, it was Kevin Hart with Peyton Manning's kids. It's because he looks so short.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of which, I mean, not as an aside, did you guys know that Kevin Hart is helping to remake Different Strokes?
Yep. It's one of those
Arnold.
Yep, he's playing, and then it is one of those one night things where they're having live stage, and it's gonna be focused on Different Strokes.
I actually think it'll be kind of funny.
Oh, I could see that being good. I watched Different Strokes growing up. Hey, by the way, I started watching Ted Lasso, and I'm into it now. I'm like a few episodes in. It's pretty good. I don't know if you guys have ever watched it, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. I think I'll try to watch it this weekend.
Hey, going to today's this week, and as we head into wrap up week 11, going to week 12, what were some of the things that stood out to you guys this past week? Look, there was Jonathan Taylor, there was Austin Eckler. For you, we talk about game balls here, Jed. Who would you give your game ball to?
Well, I was telling you just earlier, the obvious one is Jonathan Taylor, right? I mean, 5 touchdowns. That's insane. That's a record. We could go back to thinking about, greatest single day fantasy performances. And that's got to be top 10. It might be top 5. But I'm actually going to give my game ball to the Patriots defense. I remember when we were doing this about week 3, week 4, when they had lost, several games. And I remember saying, could this be the year that the Patriots don't make the playoffs? And here they turned, and if you read about it, apparently there was something on the defense where they changed the defensive scheme and they finally kind of, made a change based on their personnel because they brought in so many free agents. Remember, Bill Belichick spent a lot of money this offseason, and now Patriots are not only in first place, but they're the 3rd seed in the AFC right now. And man, that team looks really tough to beat. So I think that's super impressive. I give them a game ball for blanking the Falcons.
And Jed, if you do remember that, they also dumped Stephon Gilmore as well too.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look, They talked about Judon is the big pickup they had that
Yeah.
he's just been amazing. But yeah, they've really so everyone's talking about Mac Jones and credit to Mac Jones. Most rookie wins for a New England Patriots quarterback. He's gonna kill that record. He's phenomenal. He could get to 10 wins as a rookie, but it's the defense that is carrying that team. They're keeping everything close. He doesn't have to do a lot. He doesn't have to go out and win games. He just has to go out and not lose games. So pretty impressive.
I mean, if you really think about it, they're following the blueprint for what they did in 2002 when what's his name? Brady came in, right? So they were doing this really good interview on the Dan Patrick Show with Drew Bledsoe, who Brady replaced, and they said that honestly, like Bledsoe was saying, he came in as the heir apparent, like he was the guy, right? Then he got injured, and so this guy named Tom Brady steps in. And Belichick did a phenomenal job because if you remember, he was no name. They put up a great defense, a good line. I mean, even this year, they brought in a Kendrick Bourne. They brought in a Nelson Aguilar. They brought in Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. So they surrounded him with decent weapons, not really good weapons, but decent weapons that complemented him. And look at it now. I mean, like between the really, really good defense and good players, they've done. I mean, Mac Jones is, and he doesn't need to do anything spectacular. He just needs to manage that game, and that's what, like, I mean, we were talking about. A lot of teams really need to do with their rookies.
Well, this is also why it shows you, especially compared to the Bears, the difference that coaching makes. I mean, you cannot argue Belichick is a all-time, top 5 coach. I mean, the guy always can adjust to his personnel and essentially get the best out of his personnel. So I'm super impressed. I think the Patriots are really, although I just telling my oldest son who's a Patriots fan, I was telling him I could see them making the Super Bowl going up against Tampa Bay and losing. that would be the worst for a Patriots fan.
Yeah, Jim, what about you? Who will your game ball go to?
I mean, I think it would be, again, we said this, it would be easy for us to share. Mine is Justin Jefferson. 10 receptions, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns between him and Kirk Cousins. Look, if you needed a quarterback this week, Kirk Cousins had over 30 fantasy points, and Justin Jefferson got for me almost 50 fantasy points, and so that alone almost won me this week if it wasn't for Ryan Tannehill. But Justin Jefferson is the guy I would focus on.
Yeah, for me, a lot of times is you have the Houston Texans against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are in first place, and so we thought, man, they're going to win against the Houston Texans. Who in the world is on the Houston Texans? And here comes one of their Desmond King, defensive back with 2 interceptions out of the 5 interceptions that Ryan Tannehill had. And so Ryan Tannehill was terrible, absolutely terrible. A.J. Brown was there. And so they had Deontay Foreman. They had Jeremy McNichols. They had Adrian Peterson. Who in the world does Houston have? Brandon Cooks, and here Desmond King gets 2 interceptions, and he gets my game ball for defeating the first place Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. Aren't you guys surprised, going back to that Tennessee, aren't you guys surprised all of these, Tennessee lost this week, Buffalo lost this week, and you could have bet that Houston would have lost to Tennessee because they're just that bad. But you never know these days with the NFL.
Well, that's why the NFL is so great. I mean, because every Sunday you got to bring it. If you just have a little bit of, you look past your opponent just a little bit, and man, they'll come and get you. So that loss is really going to hurt Tennessee because now they're fighting with Indianapolis now and New England. If that comes down to it, they probably are going to lose significant, positioning because of that. The other thing you mentioned, the Vikings, I like that with Justin Jefferson. I was just thinking, man, the Vikings have looked really good the last 3 weeks. And if they hadn't have started off so bad, they're 5-5. So they're going to be really struggling. I mean, they have an outside shot, but it's there's a good chance they're not going to make it in. And but man, that team looks good. That's a team I wouldn't want to face. Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and the defense. The Vikings are really coming on.
Why didn't you say Kirk Cousins?
Because I don't like Kirk Cousins. And, you guys are making fun of me for dropping Tannehill last week. I mean, I put Cousins in that same bucket. They're just not consistent enough. Yeah, they can have good games. They can have good games here and there, but they're not in that that tier of elite quarterback. They're kind of like that
Yeah.
second tier.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of elite quarterbacks, Josh Allen, everyone picked him up really, really high. But in the last 3 weeks, look at him. He had 2 interceptions, 1 interception, 2 interceptions. Josh Allen has not been doing well, and as a result, Buffalo has struggled a lot.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of that. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and even Patrick Mahomes. I think they all have really struggled in different ways this year. It's kind of like, again, in the NFL, people figure you out. If you do really well, they study tape, they take away what you want to do and what you're best at, and you have to adjust. And if you can't, then it's going to hurt you. And I think that's what we're seeing with Josh Allen. Teams have figured out how to play him.
Well, the other person that was surprised by this past week that did not do well, Dak Prescott. You would have thought that going against that defense for Kansas City, he would put up some points. He didn't do anything this week. I mean, nobody did anything this week on Dallas.
Yeah, no, I was disappointed in that. I picked up Gallup knowing that Amari Cooper was going to be out. And it did not get – the Dallas offense did not look good. But, that Kansas City defense, I'll say I've been making fun of them all year. They have definitely improved. You can tell that there is – something is a little different now. They're getting to the quarterback a lot better. They talked about actually they moved I forgot his name, but they moved someone on defensive line into the interior, and he's been wrecking a lot more havoc from the tackle position. And I think that's really helped their defense.
I do think Dallas will do well because it's Thanksgiving Day they're playing, and they always end up doing well on Thanksgiving. So I can see Dak Prescott, I can see Gallup, I can see CeeDee Lamb might not play because he's in concussion protocol, right? So you got what's his name? Cedric, I forgot his name.
Yeah, Wilson, Cedric Wilson.
Cedric Wilson, yes, Cedric Wilson and Gallup, right? I could see them actually doing pretty good in this game.
Yeah.
I'm so frustrated. In one of my leagues, I was playing with our friend Jalen against our friend Jalen. I had Terry McLaurin at 21 points. You had Eckler at 40 points. But I still lost because I had Dak Prescott, who got me a measly 1.6 points. It was terrible. And I need to find a tight end because Mo Alley Cox got 0 points again for the second straight weeks.
Is that in our league? What league is that?
No, that's in the other league that our friends. But see, here's the thing, and Tommy will say this because one of our friends, Max, took over all of the tight ends, and some of them there's no tight ends out there, and the only way they'll trade a tight end is for a top line receiver. So you're stuck with nobody.
I gotta admit, I just like it because I think it's funny. I think it's
really I was so frustrated because I'm trying to get Gesicki. I think right. I'm not even trying to get TJ Hawkinson. They will only trade me Gesicki for Justin Jefferson. I was like, I'm not trading Gesicki for Justin Jefferson.
All right, I got to meet this friend. This guy has he's cornered the tight end market. That's pretty it's smart. It's like trading spaces back in the day.
But the only problem is he's in 9th place in the 10-team league.
No, that's even better. That's actually better. So he doesn't care about winning. He just wants to spite everyone. So that's awesome. I love it.
But yeah, so no tight ends. I mean, I need right. Like I got the Pittsburgh tight end. So I was saved because he scored a touchdown at the very end. So that got me 9 points. But you're looking at almost nothing for that tight end position. Whereas like in a good league, you wish that you at least get 10 to 15 points out of that.
What about Schultz? Schultz is starting
to
heat up a little bit.
No, he took that one too.
Yeah, there's no one. Mo Alley Cox or there's nothing. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible in there. Yeah,
I got to meet the guy. That's pretty funny, man.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, we were talking about right beforehand in terms of Jonathan Taylor, whether or not you would trade Jonathan Taylor for, let's say, who were to play Cooper Kupp and who was the other player you're talking about? And James Conner. Would you guys make that trade?
You even need to throw James Conner in there. That could be straight up Jonathan Taylor for Cooper Kupp. That would be fair. I don't see a problem.
Really? I don't know. I feel like Jonathan Taylor, he's just hitting the running backs are hard to get. And right now he's hitting a stride, right? 5 touchdowns, over 200 yards, almost 50 fantasy points. Right now, I mean, if you were to redraft everything, he'd go number 1 and Derrick Henry would go number 2. But I would not sure. I don't know. I keep, especially if it's a dynasty league, for sure I'm keeping Jonathan Taylor, but I don't think I would trade him.
Yeah.
Is that true that I want to look up what's the rankings of the running backs for this season, because he's been great. I will agree with that, but I don't know. I don't know that I would say, for example, that he would be over even a Derrick Henry. I mean, obviously the injury is a concern, but that's interesting about the redraft.
I mean, he's. I mean, if you look at the redraft, right, Jonathan Taylor, if he continues on this pace, right, and he's hitting a pretty good stride right now, he will run for over 2,000 yards if he keeps up at this pace. That's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
now Derrick Henry, if he was healthy, was on a pace to do even better, but he got injured, and so I guess I'm just looking at it from this season's perspective.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, he's got 11, 22. The next closest is in the like 6 to 7. So and then his 13 touchdowns. That's insane.
Barry also made the argument he would trade Jonathan Taylor today for Christian McCaffrey.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I would not do that. Yeah.
You have You have Christian McCaffrey in our league, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, because I got it from Tommy.
Yeah. So you've got Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, and Najee Harris.
Yeah,
are you going to keep all three?
For sure, I'm going to keep those 3 running backs. But see, if you look at it, looking at that keeper team, I also have Justin Herbert. I have CD Lamb and Robert Woods, which most likely I won't keep Robert Woods, but I'm going to have to let go of either Herbert or CD Lamb.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to keep those 3 running backs.
But you're in first place now. I've like lost 4 in a row. Like all of a sudden I'm dropped out.
My problem with Christian McCaffrey, even though he's doing well, is I just got so tired of him being injured last year and also this year. Is you just don't, when he plays, he's so good. But at the same time, if you lose him, and so I'm willing to take an Aaron Rodgers and Antonio Gibson. I know, look, Gibson has really disappointed me a lot, but I still have high hopes for him. But Aaron Rodgers, I really need a quarterback, and he saved me this week. He won me a game against Jed.
Oh yeah, you crushed me this week. I need to win. I need to come back here. I'm in danger of missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
Hey, Alvin Kamara, let me ask you guys a question. Alvin Kamara, has he fallen? If you were to redraft now and look at next year, is he in the middle first round and the first round now with Alvin Kamara?
Oh yeah, I think he would still definitely. I would say he would go maybe towards the latter part of the first round, but Alvin Kamara is still. I mean, I would say he's a talent. I would pick him over Saquon Barkley. I actually would still pick him over Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I agree mainly because of the pass catching ability along with the run. And I feel like New Orleans is a little bit of a down year. The biggest thing is just his injuries too. You want to watch that, but he's definitely still top 10 back for sure.
Yeah. Couple of news that I want to go over with you is CD Lamb has entered concussion protocol. Amari Cooper will probably miss Thursday's game with COVID. And so it looks like on the Thursday Thanksgiving game, you're going to be without both Amari Cooper as well as CD Lamb. That leaves Michael Gallup and Cedric Wilson. Yeah. Are you guys starting any of those guys?
I would start Gallup. I've got Gallup. And actually even Wilson. If you watch the game though, both of those players, you can tell they have the talent. They were getting open. They just kept dropping balls. Like they were getting there though. So they definitely they can win the one-on-one matchups, but they got to catch the ball. So, but I would take a chance. Historically, when you look at the Thanksgiving Day games, guys, it is such an advantage for the home
Dallas
teams.
Yeah.
For Dallas, the Lions are going to be at home. The Saints are going to be at home. It's such an advantage for them. And so you really want to play to those guys' strengths. So I expect the Cowboys to have a nice bounce back week.
Yeah. I mean, look at Wilson, right? He had 4 of 7 targets for 36 yards. He had the longest pass play of 18-yard catch. He had 2 really bad drops. I make the argument that at least right now, if let's say CD Lamb is out, I would choose Cedric Wilson over Michael Gallup. I still think Gallup's a better second receiver, and then Cedric Wilson will become your number 1 receiver. I also think that Tony Pollard will have a pretty good day too of running the football because they're going to need his pass catching abilities, especially if CD Lamb's going to be out.
See, I thought because I picked up Pollard right before, and I thought I hit it because Zeke Elliott tweaked his knee, and I thought he hurt it worse, but then he ended up walking it off, and so then I was like, oh, that would have been big. But Pollard still had, if you played him last week, he still had a decent game.
Yeah, I mean, he had 9 touches, 70 yards, and he did pretty good actually.
For those who are paying attention or looking at the Thanksgiving games, it's the Bears against the Lions in the early morning game, the Raiders against the Cowboys in the afternoon game, and the Bills against the Saints in the Thursday night game. In terms of teams on bye, it'll be the Chiefs. So you're losing Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Darrell Williams. Cardinals is also on bye, so you're losing Kyler Murray, James Conner, DeAndre Hopkins, and Zach Ertz on that game as well too.
That's actually what's hurt my team the most. It's not I lost Derrick Henry, so that's hurt, but Kyler Murray being out is what's really hurt me.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest thing about why my team is not doing as well.
Yeah. I think the team, I agree.
Hey, also another thing is Justin Fields is ruled out of Sunday's loss to Baltimore and will be ruled out for Thursday. So Andy Dalton is starting in quarterback. But at the same time, Dalton threw a nice 60-yard pass over the Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I don't think this is a bad thing for the Bears. I think the Bears can actually win. I mean, I think Justin Fields would have been fine, but I think that they don't lose a whole lot dropping down to Dalton, especially they might actually gain in the passing game. And if you have Mooney, you should be playing him now. Like he's really starting to come to his own. He had a nice, I think, 121 yards plus that touchdown. So he had a nice game.
Yeah. A couple other things. Michael Carter suffered a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss 2 to 3 weeks. AJ Brown, chest injury, likely avoid a serious injury, but his status is up in the air for this week. Jordan Howard suffered a knee sprain. Let's see, Logan Thomas is expected to return to practice this week. That may be someone that we're looking at. And then there is no new updates on Calvin Ridley. He's supposed to, he's eligible to come off the IR list, but he probably won't be coming. And then Kareem Hunt is expected to practice this week.
Hey, Logan Thomas in your tight end league, you guys should get him.
Well, okay, so here's the only thing about Logan.
He's gone.
Yeah. The only thing about Logan Thomas is they were talking about Logan Thomas. They said he's eligible to come off, but don't be surprised if he doesn't start immediately. You know, it might take a little bit. He might stay off of the active roster for a few weeks, and then Miles Sanders came back as well too. So I think that also takes a hit for a Jordan Howard or Bart Scott, those types of folks.
Hey, just to let you know, if we're looking at the tight end here, Jed, the ones that are available in terms of tight end. Evan Ingram, Gerald Everett, Jonnu Smith, Austin Hooper, and Kyle Rudolph. What kind of crud tight end?
Hey, Evan Ingram's not bad. He had a decent game. He had a decent game this last one out. That's not. But yeah, that's pretty bad though.
There is nothing good about this at all. Yeah. Hey Jim, as we go into, do you have a list of potential waiver wire picks you're looking at, Jim?
Yeah. Okay. So as right before the waiver wire picks, let me ask you this, right? And I'm trying to decide. I have Ryan Tannehill as my quarterback, and Kyler Murray as the other quarterback. I can't play either of them because Kyler Murray's out. I don't know if Tannehill's going to do well, right? So the question I'm trying to decide is: do I replace them this week with a pickup of Cam Newton or with Trevor Siemian from New Orleans?
Yeah, Tannehill's playing the Patriots, so that's a good move. I would sit him.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about Trevor Siemian. He has not looked bad at all. They're playing the Bills, though. It's on a short week, and you know the Bills are going to be pissed off after their loss. So Cam Newton, on the other hand, is playing the Dolphins.
Right?
And Cam looked pretty darn good with his legs. So I'm saying I would take Cam Newton in that situation.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely pick Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Hey, Jed, if we were to pick game of the week, here's a game that you need to look at. Jets 2-8 against Texans 2-8. You should look at that game.
Oh my God. I think Houston is actually a 3-point favorite. But hey, I will look at that game because, man, Elijah Moore, did you guys see the wide receiver on the Jets? The guy busted out 8 catches. I think he had like over 100 and some yards and a touchdown. I mean, that to me, and I don't mean to jump your waiver wire, Jimmy, but that to me has got to be one of the big picks.
Jed, you got it right there. He was actually the first person I've been hoping to kind of slide him under the radar and pick him up because actually for me this week, right? So I have CeeDee Lamb potentially out. I have Calvin Ridley who's still on IR, and I'm either looking at an Elijah Moore and I'm looking at a Cedric Martin, right? So Elijah Moore, like you said, 37 fantasy points. 141 receiving yards. for an offense that, quite honestly, you thought maybe Corey Davis was the #1 receiver. But the last few weeks, Elijah Moore's really kind of emerged as that top receiver, and you've seen Corey Davis essentially just disappear from that. So I can see him kind of really being somebody that you might want to target here in the next few weeks.
No,
At
that's
least
because
yeah.
he is an all-pro quarterback in Joe Flacco throwing to him.
The other person I would think, right, and I think we talked about this as well too. I do think Cam Newton, right? Cam Newton, I was really hesitant about picking him up this week because I was like, but okay, I should have thought about it though, because he was playing, Cam Newton was playing his old
Former coach, yeah.
right? And so for me, I'm like, I think he actually is one of those revenge games. It's not like he hates Rivera, but it's one of those revenge games where I think Newton's going to do pretty well. And this week he's going to play Miami. So I actually think that Cam Newton would be a pretty decent pick for anybody. And then I think, I mean, right now, Tony Pollard, if you guys have Tony Pollard, I've seen him out in waiver wires. He might have got picked up last week. But Tony Pollard's, given what's going on with the receiving core for Dallas, given that it's Thanksgiving game, given that maybe Elliott might be a little bit tweaked and it's a shortened week, Tony Pollard's actually a good play from a flex standpoint as well, too. So those are 3 people I would really highlight. I don't know if you guys have more.
Yeah, the other one I would add just to the quarterbacks, because you were talking about quarterbacks. We mentioned Heineke. Taylor Heineke had a great game, and he's playing the Seahawks. It's on a Monday night game too, and the Seahawks defense is very suspect. They can definitely be scored on, and so I think Heineke is someone else you could consider if you need a quarterback position. And then the other one we mentioned is that Michael Carter on the Jets, going back to the Jets, is out, and I think it looks like Ty Johnson is the guy that they're thinking will replace him. So you might consider him as well over Tevin Coleman. I think Tevin Coleman is the other guy. Yeah.
Going back to Heineke, you're pretty good. I'm looking at, I've never paid attention to him, but the last few weeks he's actually increased, right? He's got 11 fantasy points against Denver. Then he had 17 fantasy points against Tampa Bay. And last week he had 28 fantasy points. So whereas Tannehill is trending down, Heineke is trending up.
A couple other stats as well. Cam Newton last week, he had 189 yards on 21 of 27 passing with 2 touchdowns. Elijah Moore, just to go what Jimmy's thing is, he had 8 catches for 141 yards and the touchdowns in the past 4 games, 24 catches, 336 yards with an average of 13.1 fantasy points per game. Another one to look at, Ty Johnson as Jetta and Von Jefferson with Robert Woods out and Odell Beckham still trying to get used to the system. Von Jefferson might be someone to look at. And the fourth one, Marquise Vandal-Scantling had a long touchdown from Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And he had 10 targets and completed 4 catches for 123 yards and 1 touchdown.
The only problem with that guy is he always has 1 or 2 games that's really good, and he disappears because people will jump on him, try to pick him up, and then he doesn't see anything. They always say Devontae Adams, and so, unless something happens to Devontae Adams, you really there's not much you can do with those folks.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned OBJ too. I've got him in one team, and I've been sitting and waiting. We'll see if he gets acclimated, but the opportunity is there for him. So I'd like to see him turn that into something, but we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, I want to look at a couple games before we wrap up here as well, too. San Francisco and Jacksonville Jaguars game. Let me just actually give you Trevor Lawrence, 158 yards in terms of 3 sacks, 3 rushes for 23 yards. So that's one, Jed, I'd love for you to comment. And also Brandon Ayuk. He has come on quite a lot well lately. 7 catches, 85 yards, 1 touchdown. Deebo Samuel was your leading rusher at 8 rushes, 79 yards. Thoughts on those 3 individuals?
Yeah, you called Ayuk last week, so I thought you did a really nice job there. The only thing is, we all have known Ayuk has the talent for sure, but I guess for me, I wouldn't read too much because it was against the Jags. And so to me, this is more of an issue of the San Francisco quarterback. I don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo to spread the ball around as well. And that's what you need for Ayuk to get points, because there has to be enough passing yards. Garoppolo only had 176 yards for that game. And Ayuk is fortunate that he got what he did. But I think on a normal game-to-game basis, I don't think you can depend on him.
I think you can make the argument
Jim, Philadelphia Eagles against the New Orleans Saints, 40-29. The one person that I want to talk to is Jalen Hurts. I mean, he is now he had 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he still threw for only 147 yards, but he is now your number 1 rated quarterback in fantasy this year. Thoughts on Jalen Hurts? One more thing before you do. Miles Sanders, 16 carries, 94 yards, and Devontae Smith has benefited from him. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, actually, NFL Network, one of them, they said he was crazy. I forgot what his name was, but he said Jalen Hurts is going to be the number 1 fantasy quarterback, right? And it was at that time where no one really knew what we were going to get out of Jalen Hurts. Who would have thought that guy scores more points than a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen, a Kyler Murray? I mean, he doesn't throw a lot, but between his legs and his touchdowns, I mean, that guy, he's been a good pickup.
Yeah, and don't forget Devonta Smith as well. He's really starting to, that's a combination there that you can play with. He's really starting to come into his own. They're figuring out how to use him, I think, is the big thing. And everyone's worried about Devonta Smith's size and everything, but they're figuring out how to use him on those quick cuts just to get the ball into his hands. So another good, promising wide receiver.
I think they're one of those teams that's trending upward. I mean, whether or not they're going to win that division, but the division isn't that strong, but they are trending up, and they've got some good pieces, especially now with Miles Sanders coming back.
2 more games. Jed, Cincinnati Bengals wins against the LA Raiders, 32-13. On Friday, you were trying to figure out if you should start Joe Burrow, and he did. He had 148 yards. He was sacked 3 times.
Yeah.
But Joe Mixon, 30 carries, 123 yards.
Yeah, this was a disappointing game to me for Burrow. I actually played Burrow over Justin Herbert in one league, so I lost because of that. But yeah, so it was disappointing. But I mean, good win for the Bengals. These are the kind of games that they have to win, and they have to win strong. So it was a good showing for the run game. Like you said, Joe Mixon with 2 touchdowns and 123 yards. I think Joe Mixon is another one that I definitely missed. I kind of didn't count on him because the year previous, last season, he had so many injuries. He was so inconsistent. But this year, he's been a lot better.
Yeah. Last game, Jim, Chargers win 41-37 against a very, very good Sunday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really enjoyed it. They had a chance to come back. Pittsburgh did and win the game. But man, look at this with the LA Chargers. Mike Williams came back, 5 catches, 97 yards, 1 touchdown. Keenan Allen, 9 catches, 112 yards. But Justin Herbert, he had 382 yards in the air and 90 yards on the ground. He did very, very well.
The Chargers really helped me out, right? So Austin Eckler helped me win. Justin Herbert helped me win. And then this past week, I made a trade. Someone wanted to dump Mike Williams for my Kareem Hunts. So I made the trade gambling, and I got Mike Williams.
Yeah, Justin Herbert looked really good in this game, and the surprise was the 90 yards rushing. That was interesting, an added wrinkle to his game. And if you watched it, he looked really good. He wasn't just running wild. He was running and then sliding. And they talked about how he was a multi-sport athlete. So you could tell he looked like a baseball player when he was sliding. He looked fine. But I think Justin Herbert, again, if you have him in a dynasty league, I think this is a guy you hold on to. He's coming into his own. I mean, it's all about his maturity and growing into, the quarterback position.
Yeah. Remember in our dynasty league, I spent $80 on Najee Harris. I'm really happy now that I have Najee Harris and Austin Eckler on that team.
Yeah. And McCaffrey. So you have 3 of them.
Yeah, and McCaffrey. Yeah, so I got 3 good running backs right now.
Yeah. Versus for me on my keeper league is I made this decision. I'm still trying to figure out, do I keep Calvin Ridley as a keeper? Because he did nothing for me this year. Devontae Adams, I'm definitely keep, but should I keep Calvin Ridley? I want Cam Akers and also Antonio Gibson. I'll probably keep as one of my keepers as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the problem with the issue with your keeper, I was looking at it the other day. You have a lot of potentially really good players on IR. But because they've skipped this year, you're really trying to decide, okay, are they going to be good coming back next year, or do I roll the dice and keep a Calvin Ridley? So yeah, that's a hard decision.
Yeah. Any other? Well, actually, one more thing before thoughts on this is Matt Nagy probably is out as coach of the Chicago Bears. Do you think Ryan Pace will be out as coach of the? And then rumor has it that Ted Phillips is probably out because either he retires or his contract ends at the end of 2023.
You think Matt? I mean, I know they've been chanting like yesterday night. I don't know if you saw the Bulls game. They were chanting for him to be fired. Do you think he's done in Chicago?
Bears have never fired a coach in season, so
Yeah.
I would be surprised. But I agree. I do think it may be time for a change. I hope they don't fire Nagy and keep Pace. I hope if they do clean house, they do both and get rid of them both. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's hard to argue that loss was pretty bad.
I mean, if you think about Pace, I'm not as passionate about Pace. I actually think Pace does an okay job, right? The only thing is like why you have 3 quarterbacks where you're giving multi-million-dollar contracts is beyond me. He doesn't really draft well in the first round. But if you look at some of the players he's brought in from latter rounds, he's actually done pretty decently. I wonder if he just needs like a couple of good people around him to be able to coach these guys.
Yeah. But if you look at it, his early round tricks, Leonard Floyd, he got rid of, and who's done really, really well.
Yeah.
Trubisky, and then also this most recent one, Tevin Jenkins, who got injured. And so those are the hesitations that they have for him. Or even the free agents that he signed. Akeem Hicks didn't do well. Eddie Jackson didn't do well. Daniel Trevathan didn't do well. So you're signing all these players to high contracts, and it just they haven't produced. Yeah. Last thing before we wrap up. Any thoughts, random thoughts on cryptocurrency as well as the NBA fantasy?
Hey, Bulls #1. Did you guys see that? That was their Bulls are like killing it, man. It's been so impressive. I was thinking we should have remember at the beginning of the season we talked about a lot of experts had them picked as the number 9th seed or the like 9th ranked or 10th ranked team. We should have put a bet down in Vegas just to bet on a prop bet on the Bulls making the playoffs. We could have made money.
Well, they were 45-1 to win the division.
Yeah, that would have been.
This was like when it first started. So I was like, oh,
guys, we got to do that next season. We got to before the season. We got to put. I used to have a buddy that would put $100 on the Cubs every year to win, and so he just did that every single year until they finally won. But we got to do that. We should pick some teams and then just play that off before the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jed, you completely killed me in this week's league when you and I played together. Here's the guys who are on my injured list, and I couldn't. Doncic got re-injured, so he's sitting there on my injured list. Nokic is out. Onubi is out. Mobley is out. Oh man, everybody was out. Brogdon didn't play the entire week, so it was not a pretty week for me to play against you.
Yeah, my team has really come around. So I drafted a lot of guards.
Okay.
So LaMelo Ball and Trae Young have been huge with Jason Tatum and Devontae Murray. But the key for my team is my big guys finally are producing. So Porzingis and then DeAndre Ayton, I got him back. And once those big guys started producing, now my team has been looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. By the way, before we end, did you guys see that Isaiah Stewart going after LeBron James?
Do you guys think that LeBron did that on purpose? Did you think that was an intentional?
I didn't think it was intentional. If you looked at it, I mean, how about I take this back. Isaiah Stewart was really bloody. So if it was an accident, he really hit him hard with his elbow.
I mean, I don't think LeBron is a dirty player. Like, he has a good rep in the league, but I think it was definitely intentional. He didn't intend to like bloody the guy, but I think he definitely meant to hit him to send a message, because remember, he had hit him earlier, like the other guy. So it was a retaliation hit. But these guys, if you really watch up close, these players are in such control of their body. They know how to get hits in and make it look like a basketball move. And I feel like that's exactly what he did. Was he knew it's going to look like I'm boxing him out, but I can actually get a hit in here, and that's why Stewart reacted the way he did.
Yeah. I am glad that Stewart stood up to LeBron. All right. So sometimes people just need to stand up to LeBron.
Yeah, that was a crazy hit though. But Stewart went a little nuts. I mean, I'm glad that he stood up, but like trying to run after him in the concourse, I was like, come on, man.
Yeah. By the way, the Bulls yesterday lost a terrible game, but it looked like they were tired. Coming off the West Coast trip, playing against New York, they ran out of gas. And so you could just tell, you turn on the television and you say, wow, they're already down by 20-something points. They just look tired yesterday.
Well, and Caruso's out too, right? So that was a big part.
Yeah. And hopefully Vucevic comes back.
Caruso's been
Go ahead.
Caruso's been one of their best, I would say.
Oh yeah, and he plays a lot in the fourth quarter, so he's kind of like one of their closers. So he's been a key glue part. I hope they can stay healthy because this team is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, let's see exactly what happens. And then for us, who knows? We definitely won't be around Thursday. Friday, we'll be around, so we'll have to take a look at it. Okay, guys?
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone.